Welcome, everybody. It's that time of the month again, for our Humanode Fireside. Today's theme is human-based trust networks, at least for the first half. And for the second half, we'll go over some exciting news. So, Data, let's start with a general overview. When we were talking about human-based trust networks, I assume we're talking about trust networks that do not depend on multitudes of bots to boost your trust value. Like that
Like,
a bit?
yeah, that's for sure. But most importantly, there's like another, type of verification and confirmation that I would like to talk to you about today. Is basically imagine this: you're having like a multitude of humanoids, right? Like hundreds, thousands, maybe like hundreds of thousands of them, and imagine you have some kind of information, either like your private signature or your maybe something that you want to store somewhere, but you basically don't want to trust everywhere, or you don't have to like trust every single human node in the system. That's I wanted to talk about the way to like form private trusted networks among people, where basically you can choose among the humanoids who is precisely going to store your information, safeguard your data, who is going to let third parties to acquire your information and stuff like this. And basically, there's like a multitude of things that grow out of this particular use case. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
I am getting there. Please expand a little more.
Okay, so let me give you an example, right? So imagine I have a document from a company I run that I have to store somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to be stored anywhere on centralized, servers of big corporations, but I'm still, don't want to have it only on my computer or on my node.
So
Where would I want to
basically, you're
save
saying
that?
you wouldn't want to save it in Google Docs.
Yeah. So what I want to do is like I want to save it into in decentralized like space, blockchain or other like decentralized data set of information. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that I don't want to pay every single humanoid in the network to kind of verify the integrity of this document or verify something else. I just want to choose several validators that I trust to kind of store this among them. So, in other
Mm-hmm.
words, I would like choose you, Victor and Sasha, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and I would create a so-called trust network out of you for myself and my purpose. And basically, you would only the four of you as humanoids would basically hold my documents, have all the media files that I require, or something like this. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
a trust-based relationships between me as a user and you as humanoids, but not all of you are humanoids. Like not all the
Mm-hmm.
humanoids, just the one I trust, or just the type of humanoids I choose. Maybe I would want to like have uh, I would want to trust only the humanoids who are like transparent about their identity, so I trust only them. Maybe I would like to like shuffle up those who are pseudonymous or those who are transparent and do something like this.
Or you just want free storage on your friend's computer.
Yeah, that's true. There's also a
Mm-hmm.
reason. Now, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, uh, just thinking about that here. Of course, there are cases where you'd want that as, just close friends or whatnot. But would you see, it might not be big corporation level, but would you see people forming teams to create quote unquote data center type? situations where people are known for having a lot of storage.
As we're discussing internally, technically it's very easy to imagine such a thing together with IPFS,
Mm-hmm.
where you're basically choosing like who's holding like the pin set of the data that you're storing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically for now it's pseudonymous like account holders and validators, but that could be humanoids.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine like from any use case connected to like your ordinary social life, where you have
Mm-hmm.
like private documents that you need to store, or like places that you even like imagine you want to store your password somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't hold that in decentralized state and kind of give it out to different kind of people, and you would want it to remain private at the same time. So yeah, that's like a use case directly for this site. Or you can imagine this trusted network as a sort of network formed by people working at the same organization. Um, Basically, we work in the same organization, and we have like documents and stuff that goes around that have to be accessed by some and should be restricted to other people. And we form trusted networks from humanoids in our organization who we can trust.
Hmm. So it's like, the Humanoid media team can store all our articles in each other's computers or each other's humanoids.
Yep. Practically, yeah. Well, if you trust only like people from the media team, that's a little bit more complicated. But
Mm-hmm.
if you trust you, if you would like your info to be more decentralized, that's the use case I'm talking about here.
Mm.
So I mean, I would want to hear your guys' opinions about this. Is the working use case? Will anybody require something like this? What would you say?
Hmm. It's um it's actually quite interesting here. Uh, Victor, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yep. In my opinion, it totally makes sense. But as always, I am concerned about the UX UI you can deliver
Mm-hmm.
compared to what we have today, all using the Google accounts. Yeah, I mean, if we could just integrate the Google, would be pretty cool. But it's hard to imagine because Google wants to store everything on its own servers.
Yeah. Let's see. Edward, can you think of any use cases here, or what do you think about the theme?
Yeah, I think instead of corporations, you're better off with trusting a few of your close friends and families, basically like a social recovery for your important documents or keys. That will be far superior. Of course, we have to wait for the infrastructure to mature, but I think we are heading towards the right direction.
I'm just wondering, with and obviously, uh, there's always uh, memory requirements or hard disk space and whatnot. Um, I'm just wondering, let's say we want to keep a file in 100 or 1,000 separate notes, or just people that you like or trust. I mean, what kind of storage are we talking about here? Data? Any thoughts here?
Well,
For Victor?
yep. Well, first of all, we talk about some essential documents. I mean, it would be cool to store a film on your computer, but I will have to take it out from IPFS. It could take a lot of time. And yeah, some documents that you don't really want to lose in the long run, even if you lose everything you have. This is what trust networks, I think, should be created for in the first place.
Hmm. Hmm. It's an interesting thought here. And Dota, what kind of use cases do you think of? I mean, like, as you're mentioning earlier, like even your passport or certain legal documents, or and who would you be the only one able to access it, or would you be giving certain people access to it, or how do you view this?
I mean, and it really depends on the way you see it. Like, you can structure like a multi-level system for authorizing people, dependent on their node characteristics or who those people are in terms of your organization. Can be like integrated them into various sources to represent the trust that you're basically. How much do you rely on how many people and where the people are from? And basically, there's so much interesting in these terms about the growing credibility of the trust that can be put into you. Just we haven't precisely talked about this or anything, but imagine that you're basically holding a lot of valuable information by a lot of people, and basically you have never failed them in terms of uh, safety of your information, and basically your credibility would somehow grow in such a system, and people could see that you're actually like that they can trust you even before they actually trust you.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
let's say if I was part of a certain trust network, and let's say there's a scoring, and people say, "Oh, this person is a reliable person," so let me add this person as part of my trust network. And what
yeah.
value would it add to me for earning all this trust?
Um, this is also this is an interesting question as well, because basically you're conducting more operations than others if in a private trusted network, right?
Mm-hmm.
So logically, people should be paying you for what you're doing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you're like transaction information, because you're storing it somewhere for them, and of course, most important of all, that you're being like a reliable source where they can safeguard information and and be sure that nothing is going to happen to it unless something happens to you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the real question is, Sharon, would you rather trust some sort of a group of people that consist of humanoids, or you would choose to kind of trust uh, all humanoids in on the chain? I mean, every single one of them. Like, what would be your choice?
It's I guess it would really depend on the nature of the data I'm storing. I mean, one thing that I can think of, I guess this is more of an IPFS thing, but if my data is stored in a decentralized fashion, and I don't have to worry about, let's say, here I am in Japan, living in Tokyo, and we know a big earthquake is going to hit within the next, 10 to 20 years. Historically speaking, we're in that cycle now. So let's say a big one hits. My home is destroyed, my computer's destroyed, my hard disks are destroyed, and my data, my important data is stored amongst the humanoid network. That'd be something that I'd be happy about. I'd rather not store that type of information on Google Docs, or the Microsoft account where they scan everything anyway. But if I'm talking about, let's say, specific shared documents,
It's really hard to determine whether human network is as resilient and like survivable as Google is. But for
yeah,
now, what what my biggest here concern is that like you're basically limiting the amount of people who verify that something is true or not in your life to the people that you kind of know or that you trust. So you
mhm,
don't have like you don't need millions of humanoids verifying some truth if that truth is not basically applied to the whole network itself. So
mhm.
you're basically choosing like those who will be delivering the truth connected to some particular case or issue or something like that.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, this is an interesting concept here. Let's see. Any other thoughts here? Perhaps we can have, let's see, Andre, if Andre is available, or CryptoKitty here. Any thoughts? Any questions?
No, people are being shy.
Okay. Well, not a. Let's say, with this vision, I how would you see this evolving? From small scale to Google
I
scale.
mean, okay, small scale is something like a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have like family members, the documents of these family members, things that they own, things that is considered to be given from one family member to another if other family members sign something upon it. Of course, there can be like different, how can I say this? Different the weights of the votes because like the parents and stuff, and you create a trusted network only of those individuals and only with their like biometric signature something is true or not, and it's connected like to legal side of the matters that they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But the evolution really lies here in terms of the enterprise. So basically you're creating like a trusted network of humanoids inside your enterprise where if something is signed or stored is done specifically as your design is willing to like implement it basically different layers of authorization, different truths, and material obligations that go through one part of the system to another. If like the majority of those who are participating in this trusted network think so, yeah, that's basically like my vision of scaling here. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's like a lot of things going inside of organization way beyond the trusted signature of managers, and this could be like their solution case because basically they are how can I say that? They're attaching the signature of their truth and their weights to their biometrics directly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can easily see how it like scales from this way forward, right?
Hmm.
Okay, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're running a firm and you're an executive, you have some things that you're dealing with which are only like authorized to like 9 board members or 11 board members right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can like basically modify the system the way you see it and like give some verification rights only to this type of people because it's an organization. Or you could, if you have any other like levels of management inside your system, you can
Mm-hmm.
give other rights and obligations to them.
Yeah, I can see that. That is definitely something that is probably uh, can be implemented at many levels, actually. Hmm. This is one of those topics that you really have to. You can think of um, 1,000 different models from this. Just starting from um, cryptobiometric based signature and authentication systems to really uh, going all the way from building um, I guess large scale repositories to family based trust networks.
Yeah, I mean, anything here that's the understanding of it. I mean, for example, some devs are or engineers are working in a repository and they have some characteristics to their humanoids that define what weights they have in verification of stuff, like pulling
Mm-hmm.
mergers and delivering code and what distinguishes truth inside their humanoid trusted system. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing is for sure that basically they definitely know that the person has been signing and verifying stuff with
Mm-hmm.
using his biological traits, basically.
Yeah. Yep. That is definitely a very strong use case there. So.
I mean, you might very well know about different angles of attack that the
Mm-hmm.
huge communities or enterprises face. Is basically when someone is trying to emulate a decision from higher management and
Mm-hmm.
relate a decision to the lower management for basically implementation, but
Mm-hmm.
there was no real decision maker there, and they just copycatted his signature or something like this. So this could be like totally negated if this was a trust network built on biometrically authorized nodes
Yeah.
which verified truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Because just looking at recent history in Japan. Well, for Japan has never been a country that has relied on signatures. Signatures is something that they haven't accepted on any legal documents. It's always been a seal with your name. You stamp it in ink, and you stamp it with your seal. And it used to be that these seals were fairly original because you actually had artists that would create original seals for you with your characters. I mean, in the past 20 years or so, people decided that that's too expensive. So they have there are shops that do these seals automatically. You select a font, type your name in, and it automatically creates a seal. And the cheaper the seal, the more copies of it. If it's a popular name, you can have a couple thousand people with the same seal, which and it's easy to order a seal. So you actually have cases where, let's say, you're a board of a director and you are ordered to resign and you do not agree to it, but somebody can just take a copy of your seal or a similar one and just stamp the document, and you're officially relieved of duty. And also, of course, when you're in an organization and you're supposed to get your boss's permission, but you don't want to deal with it, you can get a similar seal with his name and stamp it, and suddenly it's an official document. Actually, a secretary of a company that I worked with had something like 10 different seals from various board members and managers in her drawer because they were too busy. They couldn't bother with it. So they're like, yeah, just, stamp my seal on it. And she'd go through and find the appropriate seal, which was a copy made, and she'd stamp it, and it would become an official document. Well, recently, the Japanese government has finally decided that this practice is kind of outdated and it causes more problems in the modern era when people can just scan it and do whatever. So Japan is moving away from this, and they're trying to find ways of getting reliable digital signatures or ways of verifying decisions or authentications. And actually, a lot of money is going into building various systems, but I mean, if this is something that can be easily done their biometrics, I think this is something that Japanese companies could actually adopt to pretty quickly. Yeah, it might just be a small use case, but just looking at what's happening around me, I can definitely see a use case there. So let's see, we're about halfway through this episode here. Do we have any questions from anybody here? If you have any questions concerning human-based trust networks, or any comments or any thoughts, please feel free to speak up here. And if not,
Guys,
oh, go ahead.
hello,
Yeah.
hello. I
Hello.
ready for questions. My name is Victor. I'm from Russia, from Siberia. I'm sorry for my English is not very well, but I'm trying and learning and
No problem.
practicing in it. Uh, uh, Humanode is amazing project and exciting for me. And thank you all. And my question is how it be in realizing the real world and in physical and it's an application on phone with camera biometrics. It's only face ID or maybe GPS track, maybe no how just a second. How it be for users application and how much resources of CPU RAM for node maybe
So
how
yes.
it realize yes in final.
So it's like the hardware requirements, and
Yeah, and how the process looks
Yeah.
like overall.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you need for it? Chan, could you go please with it, because apparently our internet is dead.
Well, I actually, if you're able to. If not, I'll just start it off. And one thing is that the requirements will be changing as we move forward. As far as biometrics go, I mean, originally, for our first implementation, we'll be doing live detection with using facial recognition software, and
Picture video on camera
yes,
on
with
phone.
video. With
Uh-huh.
it'll be starting with a video, and it is it's the original process in registering a node might take time because you have to. There's the live detection portion of it, so the system has to verify that you are a real human being. But you will need a camera on your device. So as far as hardware requirements, starting for the testnet, which we will be moving on to very soon, the hardware requirements are basically a two CPU cores, 4 GB of RAM, 40 GB of disk space, 100 megabps of internet connection, a public IP address or forwarding ports in NAT. For GNU, it could be GNU Linux. Works in Windows and in Mac OS. And
Android.
Yes, iOS
As
or
for
Android.
facial recognition, yeah, anything would work, and even the old versions of the phone, we just need at least 1 megapixel camera to get the biometrics, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I understand more, little more about it.
No problem. And actually, the second part of our episode today, or fireside today, we wanted to talk a little bit about the test network. We will be officially launching the Humanoid test network on September 28th. And actually,
Yeah, which is Tuesday.
yes, next Tuesday. And we'll be inviting people to join in batches of about 50 people. So we will be growing the size of the test network for people to test various aspects of and become human nodes and start to build the system online here.
Cool. So soon.
So, Victor, do you want to explain a bit about the test network and how people can get involved?
Yes, please.
Oh yeah, sure. So it will be pretty easy actually. Everything that you need to know from using your computer is just using the command line in order to write the path to the binary files that will be sending you. Uh, then after launching the node on your computer, you will go through biometric authentication twice, and actually right now it takes up to 5 seconds, and that's it. Yes, it is a 3D model of your face. Yes, it gets encrypted. Uh, and well, there is video to determine whether that's a living human being in front of the camera or not, but it still takes under 5 minutes, seconds to get through it. And well, what I have to say, what is really exciting about that testnet is you probably remember, if you participated in the testnets of other networks, that what they want to try is to show off how much transactions per second their network is capable of. Well, it's not our goal for now, because we were mostly working on the biometric part of our network. And for now, in terms of the network throughput, we're pretty much dependent on the Aura and Grandpa consensuses and the overall substrate implementation that Parity Technologies kindly provided to us open source so that we could build our own blockchain based on that. And the thing is, if you go around and try to find out information, and how many nodes can the standard consensuses from Substrate and Polkadot uh, support, or how will the transaction per second fall if you have too much of nodes, or what are really the minimum requirements to run the Substrate node for the network to be performant for its uh, current rates that it needs. Well, we will probably find all that out during our test net, because we will be trying to get, we will be having nodes in batches, because otherwise it will be really hard to support all the people that want to get into the test net. But eventually, we want to have as many nodes as possible on our network in its first implementation that we built. It's still far from the mainnet version. And we will be effectively testing the Substrate framework itself and how many nodes they can handle until something goes wrong, or until we can, reach the limits of the network because there are too many nodes and too many transactions that we try to run on our Humanode network. That I think I'll stop here for now, and I wonder, what exactly do you want to discuss about the test next?
Mm, I, I understand what you're testing how maximum load, maximum value of node, how many node needs for minimum maybe network of two nodes, two people, five people. Uh, how how no, in fact people
Well,
need.
actually, if you look at the Substrate, yeah, the two nodes is a minimum. But that's I mean, not what we're aiming for. We're actually aiming to build a system where we can theoretically reach millions of nodes in, I don't know, 10 years or so. But for now, we want to find out what new blockchain technologies can afford without us rebuilding them. And well, I hope we will reach 200 nodes at least, if people won't be too lazy to launch them. Another thing to show people the process more of how they will go through liveness detection every month. We will have such a rule on our mainnet, but on our testnet, we decided to make it much more frequent, and people will be doing it probably once to 3 days. Um, each time going through the biometric authentication enrollment to show people that it's pretty easy and it's not really a big burden on their life to verify their existence once in a while.
Mm-hmm. What I do if on my notebook camera don't work, or is personal computer without camera? May I use that как, such as kick scan QR?
Yeah,
It's
actually, that's
no.
exactly how it's working. When you
Mm,
launch,
mm.
yeah, when you launch the node on the computer, you get a QR code, and with the QR
Oh,
code, you just with
cool.
your phone and your front camera go through biometric authentication
Mm.
in a small application that we've built.
And the network will be growing, and of course, the testnet will be growing as we implement more technologies and more of our system. So this whole process, and our goal is to launch our mainnet next June. So for the next 9 months or so, we'll be working on constantly updating these systems. So we'll probably have anywhere from 17 to 20 versions of the testnet before we get up to mainnet launch. And of course, in mainnet launch, we'd want, I don't know, probably at least 10,000 users. So, if anybody
Yeah,
is interested, if anybody's interested in being part of the testnet, especially from the early stage, um, I know the announcement has been on Twitter and it's on Telegram and whatnot, but there's a link that you can click to sign up for the testnet. And we're working on creating, of course, manuals and videos of the manual and how you set up. So we'll try to make it as easy as possible. Of course, as we move forward, we probably won't be required to know command lines. So it will become easier and easier, but it's always more beneficial to start earlier.
cool. Mm. We understand. How long is the first part of testing mm, mm, the biometric testing? How long is how many days? 1 week, 2 week.
Well,
Mm.
it all depends really on the number of participants that will be coming, but our goal is to really test it out, have as many nodes as possible before closing it down to find out the limits of the substrate technology that we already integrated. So we don't have really exact length of the testnet. We'll be just allowing people to enter it by batches of 50 people. When the next 50 people is onboarded, we're going with 50 people more. until we decide that, okay, everything is working fine, but I have to tell you that we're not expecting everything to work fine, and we're sure that the testnet will go down a couple of times for one reason or another. Uh, Effectively, our community will be helping us to find out where the main issues and limitations are, and what should we work more on before the main net.
Yes, and obviously, if you are knowledgeable in coding, or let's say you're a white hat hacker, you're more than welcome to join in the discussion and see how you can stress the network and see how you can crash it. And the more uh, you crash it and you find out how it crashed, the stronger the system will get. So, Victor, just out of curiosity, how many times do you think the testnet will crash in the first 2 weeks?
I think it will be pretty smooth until we launch the certain number of nodes. And the thing is that things will start crashing when a lot of people will join as nodes, and then they decide to not continue doing this. So most likely we will crash when a lot of nodes enter the network, and then while the testnet is still running, they will shut down their computers, because if you have too much of them shut down in the short period of time, the network will crash because of the liveness requirements, the requirements of having at least a certain percentage of the nodes during this term. And this is actually one of the reasons why we will have to have people validating their identities frequently, because that is what will keep the testnet running. If, for example, we will have half of nodes going down during 1 week, it can still be okay if they don't quit in the same day, for example. So I don't know the answer to this question, and actually that is why we're running the testnet, not to show off our technology, but to find out the limits of what we have built so far.
Yeah, and that is key here, because actually, one thing that I always find interesting, and I know it might be trivial or nothing to be, you know, um, excited about, but when the Humanoid current core team gets together, we meet at least as a group once a day to talk about what we've been doing, progress in various portions of the project. And let's say we're talking to the biometric authentication team. The BIOS team would be like, okay, I've been working on the accuracy of let's say facial recognition. And today we went from 96.0% accuracy to 96.3 accuracy. And I think we're going to have to tweak the mainframe a little more. We're going to have to do this, or we're going to have to adjust this. And it's really small steps, but starting from, let's say, half a year ago, the numbers are, the amount of progress that has been made is quite amazing. And it's just a continuation of a lot of small steps by some very, very smart and dedicated people, where the whole humanoid network is getting not only more stable, but more accurate. And I can see by the time we get to mainnet, we would have made a lot of mistakes, and we would have learned from a lot of mistakes, and we had made, quite a stable system that will be extremely acceptable, but at the same time, something that we can further improve on. So really, as we've been saying, the goal of this test net isn't really to show off how flashy it is, or how beautiful the UI is, or what kind of cool things we can do at this stage. Right now, our target is really to brush it up and build this as a community. And this is one thing that I find extremely beneficial for the Humanoid network as a whole. It's not just a couple people come up with a nice idea and slap together a fancy product and ship it, and everybody pays for it, and those who create it make a lot of money. It's more of a project where people who see a common goal here on creating this network are really building it together and improving it day by day, learning from each other, learning from the mistakes, learning from the successes, and getting more and more people involved in building this network, as in the end, everybody who participates in the network will become co-owners of this network. It's not going to be a group of people that owns everything. It's like every participant is going to be an equal co-owner. So as we move forward in the test net and more people get involved, and more people assist in the building process and the testing process, the stronger the end product will be, and the stronger the community will be, and the stronger our whole foundation will be. So I really, really hope more and more people will join, even if it's just to test it out and see how far we've gone, or if it's acceptable or not, or if there's a future for it. The more people involved, and the better. So, okay, well, we're down to about a couple more minutes. I'd like to open floor again. Does anybody have any final questions, comments, anything that they want to share? It doesn't have to be about the Humanoid testnet or human-based trust networks. Just anything that comes to your mind. If you want to know what color polka dots Dato has on his underwear today, that's a question too. Feel free to ask whatever. Edward, do you have any questions or comments?
Guys,
No, I-
little comments. It's 7 people in this chart on start, and thousand on final. I believe in this.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this will be a step-by-step building process.
Yeah, people just don't want to talk. They come to listen to the podcast later.
They're afraid that I'll call their name out and they'll have to ask questions.
Oh yeah.
Okay, then. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for this fireside. As for our next fireside that we plan 2 weeks from now, What I do hope we can do is we'll have a full fireside focused on the testnet, and we will be inviting all the users that have participated in the testnet and are interested in participating in the testnet to join us, and we can have an open discussion, live discussion about the testnet, their experiences, their hopes, their fears, their successes and failures in the testnet. And so the next episode should be quite interesting. And I hope everybody will join us. Let's see. Dado's not here, so I guess that's that. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you. Thank you everybody for coming again. We're still
Very
small,
much.
but we're glad seeing new people coming in every week. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
It was a pleasure. Cheers.